Hey guys, welcome. In this video, we're going to take another detailed look at both the quantum field capacity as well as the quantum field consumption change in the latest Star Citizen Alpha 4.9 PTU. The impact from those changes will affect the cargo haulers the most for the coming 4.9. So in this video, we will explore some options as well as some tips on how to mitigate those adverse impacts for cargo hauling. In my previous 4.9 Ivacati patch report videos, we analyzed the quantum field capacity and consumption change data from the data mining charts. And because those are just data mining numbers, and many of those changes don't make sense, so I was expecting them to change those numbers when patch goes to PTU. But so far, those numbers are still true, even though some of them are against common sense. Now, let's take a more comprehensive look at those numbers, starting from the quantum field capacity change for all our ships, especially the cargo ships. So in the latest 4.9 PTU build, the ship that has the highest quantum field capacity is the Origin A90 Jump. And the second are the Aegis M and Aegis P. The A90 Jump, 31.5 SU of quantum fuel, and the Aegis, 27.5. The quantum field capacity alone is not enough to decide how far they can travel, because we also need to add a quantum fuel consumption as a consideration, which we'll talk about that later in the video. After the A90 Jump and Aegis, the second place will be the Envo Carrack and the Drake Corsair. Their quantum field capacity is around 6.5 SCU. And this is actually a good thing, especially for the Drake Corsair, because the Drake Corsair can also be used as a small cargo hauling ship. It has 72 SU of cargo grid, so you can do some small to medium-sized cargo hauling. But if you want to stack some high-level cargo hauling missions, then the Corsair is not going to help you. Maybe you can use the Envo Carrack for that, but the Envo Carrack cannot take any 32 SU of cargo boxes, except if you throw it into the ship hangar on the top. Now, the third place of quantum field capacity is the 5.7 SCU. Aegis Reclaimer, all the Hercules, A2, C2, and M2, Caterpillar, all the Ironclads, as well as the Misk Halsey, they all belong to 5.7 SU. The Reclaimer is a heavy salvage ship, but the Hercules, especially the M2 and C2, are very decent cargo hauling ships, and they still have a very decent quantum field capacity. However, in terms of cargo hauling, there's one ship that will rule them all, and that is the Drake Ironclad. Especially in the 4.9, most of the terrible bugs has been fixed, especially when you can fly the ship directly from the operation seat. We don't have to worry about the command modules anymore. And the Ironclad with 2020 SCU of cargo grid, with the ability to load cargoes both in space as well as on the ground. Especially, you can land the ship easily into a large hangar without using a docking collar. And they also fixed the VTOL thrusters, so you have a very strong VTOL to lift you up from any gravity place. And I think because of that, the Misk Halsey has been completely ignored. First of all, I've heard reports that the Halsey is broken. You know what? Let's go test the Halsey right now. Okay, deliver the Halsey to Avis Harbor. Now, commodity shop at the admin center. I'm gonna buy something directly into the Halsey. Let's get the scraps. So buy all of them. Ooh, spend a lot of money. That's fine. It's a PTU. 2096 SCU. Purchase. So awaiting manual delivery from freight elevator. Transaction complete. Okay, so it says pick up from cargo deck required. And now let's go to the cargo deck. Okay, Halsey is out. And now let's call the Avis Harbor Cargo Services. I don't see a box yet. The Halsey's cargo deck should be right in front of me right here, because the station arms, those are external freight elevators. So for the Halsey cargo loading, it has to be here. But so far, nothing. Keep calling. Nothing. Call again. Still nothing. Look around the station. I don't see any loading box for me to go into. So this is a problem. I'm gonna try my Mobi glass. Cargo. Yep, that's negative. Yep, so the Odyssey is still broken in the 4.9. Actually, the Odyssey itself is not broken, but the auto-loading services for the Odyssey is still broken. So you really can't use the Odyssey for any serious cargo hauling, except that you load stuff from the external free elevator, load on the Odyssey, and then fly to another station to unload it manually from the external free elevator. Back to the quantum fuel capacity. The Drake Ironclad is king for hauling. Even in the current life, all the hauling missions, including the master level hauling missions for the Red Wind, for the Kovalex, they are all designed revolving around the Ironclad. And with 5.7 SCU of quantum fuel for the Ironclads, it is still pretty decent at long-range cargo hauling. The next bracket of quantum fuel capacity is 4.1 SCU, and these ships include the Aegis Hammerhead, the Starfarer and the Starfarer Gemini, the Perseus, the Polaris, and the Zeus CL. This category seems very weird because how come the Polaris and the Zeus has the same amount of quantum fuel capacity? And the Polaris has a size 3 quantum fuel drive, which will consume fuel faster than the Zeus CL, which means the Polaris has an actual jump range much less than the Zeus CL. The actual jump range of the Polaris with the stock quantum drive is 241 gigameters, but the actual jump range for the Zeus CL with a stock quantum drive is 370 gigameters. What a difference! And the Zeus CL has 128 SCU of cargo grid. So the Zeus CL is a very decent small to medium sized cargo hauling ship. So the Zeus CL is going to be very useful in the coming 4.9. The next bracket of quantum fuel capacity will be 3.2 SCU, and the ships includes the MISC Freelancer, Origin 400i, Origin 600i, and 600i Touring, as well as the Constellation Aquila and the Zeus ES. A lot of these ships are exploration ships. For example, the 600i, the Aquila, and the Zeus ES. Their quantum fuel is only 3.2 SCU. The next bracket of quantum fuel capacity is 2.8 SCU. And the ships include the Argo Mole, the Argo Raft, Argo SRV, Miss B, as well as the Constellation Taurus. The Raft, B, and Taurus are three of the most commonly used cargo hauling ships, especially the Miss B, with over 500 SCU of cargo grid. With only 2.8 SCU of quantum fuel capacity, which isn't great, but it's not too bad. With a proper quantum drive, you can still use that ship to make multiple jumps and travel for long distance. So the Raft and Hobby are still pretty decent cargo hauling ship in the 4.9. And the next bracket of quantum fuel capacity will be 2.7 SCU. And these ships are mostly heavy fighters. All the Vanguards, the Inferno and the Ion, the Stinger, the Shiv, all the Guardians, heavy fighters with 2.7 SCU of quantum fuel is actually pretty decent. Again, you have to equip it with the right quantum drive so you have a better quantum fuel consumption. That way, you can travel for long distance, not only for doing combat, but you can also use that ship to shuttle you around in the verse as well. The next ship is the Dracata Rambler, which has a 2.6 SCU of quantum fuel. The next bracket will be only 2 SCU of quantum fuel. And the ships includes the Aegis Redeemer, the Retaliator, the Asgard. Asgard is also a decent cargo hauling ship. The Valkyrie, A1C1, MSR, all the Cutlasses, the Prowler Utility, including the Starlancer Max and Starlancer Tech, the Apollos, the Andromeda, the Phoenix, as well as the Hermes. So if you're using these ships for cargo hauling in the 4.9, equipping the right quantum drive is going to be essential. And the next bracket is 1.3 SCU of quantum fuel. And the ships includes the Pisces, the Terrapin, the rest of the cutters, the Clipper, the Mustangs, Freelancer DUR, Origin 315P 85X, and Aurora LX. And then next bracket, 1.1 SCU. The ship includes the Eclipse, the Lightning, Hurricane, Argomoth, Nomad, and especially the Gatic Raylan and Freelancer Max and Misk Hall A. Also Origin M80, Mantis, Meteor, Scorpius, and Teres. I can't believe the Raylan and Freelancer Max is included in this bracket. The Misk Hall A is understandable because it's a starter hauling ship. But how come a long-range medium hauling ship of the Raylan belongs to the same bracket as the Misk Hall A? Also the Freelancer Max as well. The Hercules has 5.7 SCU, and the Raylan has almost the same cargo capacity as the C2. So 1.1 SCU of quantum fuel capacity is a bit ridiculous. So even with the best quantum drive for the Raylan, it still cannot do multiple long-range travel. And the last bracket will be the 0.8 SCU of quantum fuel. For this bracket, it includes almost all the light fighters. Most of the Auroras, M50, Origin 100i and 300i series, the Misk Starlight. Wow, Starlight belongs to this category. The Starlight is also a refueling ship, but unfortunately, it cannot refuel itself. All the Reliant ships, the Freelancer MIS, Misk Fortune, Razor, all the Wolf, the Sulan, the Gatic Thule. Wow, the Gatic Thule is a pretty big ship with only 0.8 SCU of quantum fuel. That's another ridiculous balance. All the Talons, the Blade, the Vulture. Drake Vulture is going to suffer as well. The Drake Golem OX. This is one of my favorite cargo hauling ship with 64 SCU of cargo grid, but with only 0.8 SCU. This is understandable because it's such a small ship. Also, the Drake Command Module for the Ironclad and the Caterpillar. The Buccaneer, all the Mustangs, and the Banu Defender. The Banu Defender, one of its advantages is it has a bigger quantum fuel tank in the current life, but it's been nerfed to 0.8 as well. The Sentoki Eye, Cartual, and the Terrapin Medic. Also, the Anvil Paladin. Wow, the Gladiator as well, and all your Hornets, all the medium fighters. Also the Aegis Tiburon, RIP, all the Sabers, all the Gladiuses, all the Avengers as well. So this is it, a complete list of the new quantum fuel capacity. Now, among all the cargo hauling ships that we talk about, except the Anvil Carrack and all the Hercules, as well as the Ironclads, also the Hull C, those ships needs a size 3 quantum drive, but the rest of the cargo hauling ships, the majority of them, requires a size 2 quantum drive. The Raylan, the Hull B, the Raft, except the Golem OX, which requires a size 1 quantum drive. So now we're going to be talking about the quantum drives as well as the associated quantum fuel consumption. One of the most important things to mitigate the negative impact of the quantum fuel capacity nerf is to choose the right quantum drive for your cargo hauling ships. And in choosing the right quantum drives, there are a few important factors. One is the consumption rate, which is translated into the required fuel per 10 gigameters or per 100 gigameters. Second is speed, which is translated into the total travel times per 10 gigameters. And then the third will be the cooldown after a long jump. Let's start with the size 3 quantum drive, because size 3 quantum drive only has 3 classes: industrial, military, and civilian. It does not have the stealth quantum drives. Let's look at the required fuels. So these 3 quantum drives, the Angie, Kama, and Vesta, needs the least amount of fuels to travel 10 gigameters. It's 1.2 SEU. You can travel 100 gigameters. And these are the industrial quantum drives. And the Karma is a stock quantum drive for your ironclad and ironclad assault. The Karma is an industrial C quantum drive. The cooldown is 22 seconds. However, in terms of the quantum travel speed, industrial quantum drive is not the fastest. So if we categorize by the travel time, the military one will be the one that travels the fastest. So right now, we have a choice. We have to take and give. In the current life, the military quantum drive, in most cases, as long as you're not doing stealth combat, the military quantum drive is the best quantum drive to choose because it travels the fastest and we don't have to worry too much about the quantum fuel consumption because we have enough quantum fuel capacity to spend. But in the coming 4.9, that's not the case anymore. So you have to choose between travel time and the quantum fuel consumption because the military quantum drive will have a higher consumption. 100 gigameters, you will use 1.4 SEU. And the next fastest quantum drive will be the Abros Civilian A. It takes 1 minute and 14 seconds to travel 10 gigameters, but it has the highest quantum fuel consumption. 100 gigameters will consume 1.7 SEU. So our choice right now is very simple. Choose between military A or industrial B. And by the way, the military A also has a shorter cooldown, 12.7 seconds. But civilian A has the shortest cooldown, 8.7 seconds. So the conclusion is, for your ironclad and ironclad assault, in the 4.9, the TS2 is still one of the best choice, even though it has a higher quantum fuel consumption rate. But the ironclads still have 5.7 SEU of quantum fuel to spend. So if you want to travel faster, still choose the TS2, especially a crafted TS2, and that can reduce your quantum fuel consumption. Now, let's look at the size 2 quantum drive, which will be the most common ones used for the majority of your cargo hauling ships, especially the Raylan. If you still want to use that ship, then you must choose a quantum drive that has the best quantum fuel consumption rate. So let's start with the required fuels first. These 3 quantum drives, both Nova and SPICU, has the best quantum fuel consumption, only 0.6 SEU to travel 100 gigameters. And these are the Stealth A, B, C quantum drives, especially the SPICU Stealth A. The cooldown is only 18.9 seconds, and travel time is 1 minute 8 seconds for 10 gigameters. But if you want to find the best travel time, then it will still be the XL1. 1 minute to travel 10 gigameters. The next best size 2 quantum drive in terms of the quantum fuel consumption rate will be the industrial quantum drives. They have a much higher cooldown, but they have a better quantum travel time compared with the stealth quantum drives. And their consumption rate is 0.8 SU per 100 gigameters. And the third best in terms of the quantum fuel consumption will be the military quantum drives. They consume 0.9 SU of quantum fuel per 100 gigameters. But the military drives will be the fastest, especially the XL1. And after that will be the civilian quantum drives. They have a relatively shorter cooldown, but their travel time is longer, and their fuel consumption rate is 1.1 SU per 100 gigameters of travel. So definitely not recommended, especially the Sparkfire and Sunfire. These are the competition quantum drives. Their consumption rate is 1.7 SCU per 100 gigameters. Their travel time is also a bit longer, even though they have the shortest cooldown. So for the size 2 quantum drive cargo hauling ships, if you don't have enough quantum fuel capacity, such as the Gatic Raylan, then quantum fuel consumption rate is going to be your primary consideration. And I do suggest use the SPICU, the Stealth A quantum drive, especially a crafted one. But for ships has a little bit better quantum fuel capacity, you can consider the quantum travel time. Then XL1 will be your best choice. Now look at the size 1 quantum drives. It's the same thing. Drift, Spectra, and Zephyr. These are the stealth quantum drives, which has the best quantum fuel consumption, 0.8 SU per 100 gigameters. And then the second place will be the industrial ones. But that will consume 1.1 SU per 100 gigameters. So why size 1 quantum drives in general consumes more fuel than the size 2 quantum drives? I think the smaller the quantum drives, the better the consumption rate should be, right? But the size 2 quantum drives in general has a better consumption rate than the size 1 quantum drives. The size 1 military quantum drives will consume 1.4 ICU of quantum fuel per 100 gigameters. And for the size 1 quantum drives, this is mostly used for your light and medium fighters. We don't have a lot of cargo hauling ships belong to the size 1 quantum drives, except the Golem OX. And for the light and medium fighters, you only have 0.8 ICU of quantum fuel. So the best choice would be to equip your ship with a stealth quantum drive, which has the best quantum fuel consumption rate. Next class would be the industrial quantum drives. Consumption rate is 1.1 SEU. And then the third place is the VK00, Sarah, and Beacon, the military quantum drives. The consumption rate is 1.4 SEU. Of course, the military quantum drive is the fastest, but you have a much higher consumption rate. If you're jumping from Crusader to Microtech, it needs more than 0.8 SU of quantum fuel. So your light fighter and medium fighter with a military quantum drive, you cannot make that jump. However, if you equipped the stealth quantum drive or the industrial quantum drive, then you can make that jump. Stealth quantum drive only consumes 0.46 SEU. Industrial only consumes 0.63 SEU. And the civilian quantum drive consumption rate is 1.6 per 100 gigameters. And the competition one consumes 2.4 SEU. Wow. But the benefit of competition quantum drive is its much shorter cooldown time. But that cannot compensate for the huge amount of fuel consumption. So that's the quantum fuel consumption rate analysis. For the size 1 quantum drives, it's best to use stealth quantum drives. For the size 2, you can choose between stealth and military. Depends on the amount of quantum fuel capacity that you have. And for the size 3, TS2 is still the best choice. So in summary, two main things that you can do to mitigate the negative impact of the quantum fuel capacity change in the 4.9. If you want to do some serious cargo hauling, one is to choose the right cargo ship. To me personally, the Ironclad is number 1. If you don't have Ironclad, the C2 is also a good substitute. And then is the Hull B, number 2. And then is the Raft, as well as the Zeus CL. And after all that, I will consider the Raylan again. The second thing we can do is to choose or craft the right quantum drives. So that's my analysis and tips. But I like to hear different opinions and different suggestions from you guys. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.